Picture this. I'm sitting on a rooftop garden eating dinner at sea. The sun is setting, live music is playing, an island that looks like a Disney short film coming out of the sea passes by, a cocktail is in my hand, and I'm thinking, this doesn't feel anything like the cruises people think they know. I'm your host, Samantha, and today on Talk Travel with Samantha, we are diving into my recent celebrity cruise experience in the Retreat and whether luxury at sea is actually worth paying for. Welcome back to Talk Travel with Samantha, powered by Fabulous Adventures Travel. I spent the last week doing what I call extremely important travel research aboard a celebrity cruise, and I may have ruined regular cruising for myself. I sailed in the Retreat. Say it with me. The Retreat. So the Retreat is almost like a ship within a ship. I wouldn't necessarily call that, but that's what they kind of like to call the Retreat. But the Retreat is the suites, the elevated experience on Celebrity. So I've never actually sailed in the Retreat. I've actually only sailed on Celebrity once prior to this. I was on the Celebrity Reflection. Last week, I was on Celebrity Beyond. So there were two totally and completely different ships. And a couple reasons why I wanted to sail Celebrity is, first of all, they have a great reputation. People absolutely love them. And I really, really wanted to try and see what it was like because I'm such a huge Virgin Voyages fan. You know, I've sailed over 52. I've sailed on over 52 Virgin Voyages. Honestly, I feel like maybe I shouldn't tell anybody that. But, I like to compare because I do have a lot of clients that come to me and say, hey, we're looking between Celebrity and Virgin. What do you think? Well, I obviously will always choose Virgin, but I wanted to know why people choose those different options or why they compare those two experiences together. So I want to talk about literally everything today, but the boarding experience for the Retreat was definitely different. It wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. And let me actually back up, go even further. So obviously I booked this through myself. I didn't go through a travel agent. I booked it, via my own travel agency. And I expected to get some info. And because I thought listen, when you sign up for the Retreat and you're in this Retreat, this elevated experience, this suite experience, right? One would think that I would get some extra, hey, this is what you're going to get. There was nothing on my app that indicated it, so I thought that was kind of odd. So on Virgin, that actually indicates on there that you're a rock star, right? Or that you're a mega rock star. There was nothing on my app that I could find that indicated that I was in the Retreat. And there was nothing on there that kind of explained what to do or where to go. So I like to do these experiences because, like I said, I want to be able to tell my clients and you guys, to be honest, what it's like, to go as a, first time sailor on that. So prior to that, I did feel like there was a lack of information on what was included in the Retreat, what, how it worked, what I was supposed to do. So when we showed up at the port, there was a bunch of Retreat check-in spots, but we did not use them. We just kind of went to the normal porter and dropped off our luggage and kept walking. Well, little did I know there was a whole check-in area for the Retreat right there. So I guess there's a lot of things that happen too where I don't necessarily think of myself as bougie or anything like that. So I forget to kind of do those things even when I book things like the Retreat, and I kind of just do it on my own. And that's pretty much what happened. So I completely skipped the checking in to the Retreat section and just boarded kind of like, everyone else would. So when we did actually find the Retreat section to actually check in, not just our luggage, they brought us through a whole section, a whole different area. We went straight up an elevator and right into the lounge. And as soon as we walked in, someone grabbed us with an iPad. They had an iPad in their hand. They sat us down. I didn't have to stand in a line. They're like, come sit. I was like, oh. I mean, at this point, I felt like they were going to give me a cold washcloth and a glass of champagne, but that didn't happen, I will tell you. But she sat down and basically checked us in. She, sat us down and checked us in, which I thought was a very, very nice touch. There was a lounge area with drinks and some hors d'oeuvres or, little snack bites and whatnot. But we, of course, once you get to that, you're kind of like, I don't want to hang out here. I want to keep going. I don't want to stop here and eat. I want to get on the ship. So we did, as soon as she checked us in, we went straight to the ship. We went straight on the ship. Once we got on the ship, there was no instruction as to where to go. So we weren't really sure where to go once we got on the ship. And so I stopped the first guy once we got on the ship and I was like, hey, where do we go? We're Retreat. And he kind of was like, so? And I was like, there's got to be some place like a lounge or a gathering spot or something. And he's like, uh-huh. And then he goes, you know what he said? He told me to go to my muster station. He goes, go to your muster station. I was like, yeah, that's kind of not what I was thinking. And so I thought that was pretty funny. He was not understanding that I was trying to figure out where it was that we were supposed to go. So we end up walking to the muster station because it happened to be on the same deck that we, boarded on. And we walk over to the muster station and the guy was so cute. He was like, hi, how's it going? I was like, great. He's like, do you know what you're doing? I was like, not a clue. And he's like, awesome. And so he just checks us in. And that's literally the end of muster. He never even asked us if we watched the video, nothing. I probably shouldn't blow him in right now and say that that's what happened. But he says, do you have any questions? I was like, yeah. What do we do? I was like, we're in the retreat. And he goes, well, you can go to your room and drop your stuff off. He goes, but that's all you can do. Don't stay in your room. And I thought that was really interesting because I love the fact that you can go drop your stuff off and leave. So you don't have to carry it around. Oh, that's gorgeous and wonderful and phenomenal and amazing because, carrying around a heavy bag the entire time, nobody wants to do that while they're trying to figure out where to eat, get their first drink, enjoy the first hour of their vacation. It was nice to be able to go straight, to the cabin and drop it off. Well, because we had a suite, I was like, oh, I got to check this cabin out. It's not going to be your basic cabin. So we go to the cabin and, your tags, your key cards are right there by the door. So we grab the key cards and open the door. And it opens up into a hallway that has two more doors, one to our actual door and another cabin the other way. Well, we didn't own the other cabin. So that was really strange to me because I had no idea that that's kind of how it went, that there was another cabin that was attached to our hallway. So we had to use a key to get in the first door. Then we had to use a key to get into our next door. And then there was also a cabin mate, but not really another cabin in our hallway. So it's really interesting. I don't know if you've ever been to a Four Seasons in Orlando, but the Four Seasons in Orlando has rooms like that where there's one main door and then there's two rooms in the hallway. And that's kind of how they make them connecting. I'm not sure that was the case for this. Obviously, we didn't know the other cabin, so we clearly weren't going to connect to them. But it was definitely interesting to have that hallway. It was really, really strange. Well, anyways, walking into the cabin, it was very, very nice. Well appointed, very clean, very nice, well put together, very spacious. The bathroom was huge. We had this massive tub. We had a glamour station. We also had two faucets in the sink, so the sink was very long, tons of storage. So the bathroom was really, really nice. I thoroughly enjoyed that. And trying to think what else. The balcony was really, really nice. It had two chaise lounges plus two chairs and a table. So it was a very long balcony. It was really, really nice. So it was called the Magic Carpet Sky Suite. So my biggest worry was that the Magic Carpet, which is on the Beyond, does go past that room. And I was like panicked that we were going to have to hear this thing going up and down and up and down. And you actually didn't. So I will tell you, you could not hear the Magic Carpet. And not only that, but when the Magic Carpet goes by, it goes by with no people on it, which I did not know. So all of those worries made me so happy. And the location of our cabin was phenomenal. So now I will tell you that who we were sailing with, I was actually sailing with my daughter who is 16 and my friend who had two 15-year-olds with her. And they were sadly disappointed by the amount of children on board who, they were hoping to become their bestest, fastest friends ever. And they were a little sad about that. So I will tell you that it got better. They did meet children, but I will also say that I heard that out of 3,000 people on board, there was only 150 kids on board. So I can see why people compare Virgin and Celebrity because there were hardly any children on board. And funny enough, my daughter actually met someone from the same town that we live in, which I thought was really interesting and crazy, but not that crazy because it happens, of course. But I do want to talk about who celebrity is really for, right? It's a mix of I would say anywhere from 35 up to 80. So there are just not a lot of kids on there. There's not a lot of multi-gen family. You're not seeing that. You're seeing more of that on Royal Caribbean and that kind of thing. So it's definitely a chiller vibe. So I will say that. So let's talk about the retreat exactly. So what exactly is it, right? So it's suites. It has a private restaurant. It has a private sun deck, a retreat lounge. It has Butler service. That's one of the things I was really excited about. But is this luxury or is it just expensive? So I want to read off a couple of the amenities that come with the suite. So you do, like I said, get a retreat lounge. That's open almost all the time. There's food up there, but not a lot of food. So I'm going to be honest, don't think you're going up at a certain time and getting food. It's very rare that there's food up there. There's some in the mornings. There was some in the late afternoon, and I guess there's some at dinner, which I never ever saw because we didn't make it up there. There's a retreat sun deck, so that's all of this is just exclusive for retreat guests. So there was a pool up there, a pool bar, a bunch of lounge areas, and then you have Luminae, which is the retreat restaurant. So that restaurant you can go whenever you want at whatever time you want. I mean, it's not open all the time, so obviously breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But I meant for dinner, you don't have to make a reservation, which is really, really nice. So that's really great. The other thing that you get is the unlimited premium drink package, which I think is phenomenal because, of course, as you know, it's super expensive, the drink package. So that was nice that it was included. You also have a complimentary mini bar that's stocked with soda and beer. You have full in-suite breakfast, lunch, and dinner service and daily delights. You have afternoon tea event at the retreat lounge, but the dedicated butler service, I would say, which I will mention a little bit later, was a bit lacking if you ask me. So you do have a dedicated butler and they help you with anything that you need. So I'll go over that in a little bit, but you also have a destination experience specialist. That was also lacking in my opinion. Suite to car escort by your butler on private journey excursions. So private journey excursions was also lacking because I'll tell you what happened there. And then you have premium bath and body products, priority departure and embarkation at most destinations, reserved theater seating. I loved this. You could show up at 15 minutes and have a seat still waiting for you, which was phenomenal. You have complimentary beach towel service, shoe shine, and a use of umbrellas and binoculars. The other thing that you do get a welcome bottle of bubbles. You get premium Wi-Fi, which I think is a great inclusion. The Wi-Fi and the beverage package were phenomenal. You get the 100% cotton bath towels and bathrobes and a pillow menu. So I will tell you, I never once saw the pillow menu. So this is where I think a couple of the things are lacking. Cabins for them. We didn't even have a big cabin. It was but the space was phenomenal. And I thought everything in it was just well appointed. Like I said, the lighting was great. The way you controlled the lighting, it was on your phone in your app, which was awesome that you can control it on your phone in your app. I thought that was so great. You could also control it on the wall. The bathroom I thought was I love a good bathroom because of the fact that majority of the time they're super small and there's no place to put your stuff. This was great. We had all the space and I just loved it. So I thought what they got right that blew me away was definitely the cabin. I absolutely loved the cabin. The other thing that blew me away on Celebrity was the fact that the crew was so friendly. I thought that was just amazing. The crew just was so sweet. They were friendly. They were kind. They were fun. They were helpful. I can't say much more about them because it was just so great. So one time we were sitting at one of the shows. It was probably the first show, and the captain came on and kind of introduced himself, and he was so personable and had such a personality. I was laughing so hard through his little presentation. He was presenting, all of his heads, head of the hospitality, head of the hotel, head of dining, all of that stuff. He was presenting all of those people, and he was so funny. Well, the next day when we went to get off the ship, he was walking towards me, and I recognized him as the captain, and I was like, oh my gosh. And he's like, hello, have a good day. Like, he was just so jovial and just so very, very nice. And honestly, that just blew me away, that how great the crew was and how helpful and just lovely they were. And even up in the retreat lounge, I will say that they knew my name after the very first time I spoke to them, which was like halfway through the cruise. I'm going to be honest. I finally went up and talked to somebody, and she knew my name. She was like, Samantha, and she just kept talking to me. Like, and I just thought that was very, very, very professional of them, and just a nice, nice touch. So things that blew me away. The room. I absolutely loved the cabin. I thought the cabin, and we had one of the base cabins, like it was one of the bottom line, lead-in rate. The other thing that blew me away was the food. The food was really, really good. And I'm not just saying that because we went into the restaurant, the Luminae. I'm not saying that food, we went everywhere. So we did try regular dining. We did try that. We also tried specialty dining. And one of the things that I love, but I heard it was going away, is La Petite Chef. They do this whole show, this like projected show, and the chef is making the food on your plate. Oh, we did that twice. We had so much fun with that. We saw 2 different shows. Super fun. It's like a projection that's on the table, and this little chef is going around making your food. Like, it's the cutest thing on the planet. So I just think that the food was so good. And I will tell you that I found one of the best chocolate chip cookies ever on a ship there. It was so good. So I had to pay for it. I will say that it was not free, but it was at the French cafe that they have on board. And I was just kind of walking by, and I saw all these pastries. I am a sucker for a chocolate chip cookie and a pastry of sorts. So I was like, ooh, chocolate chip cookies. So of course I had to stop, and I'm like, dang it, you got to pay for it. Well, I didn't really care because it looked like the best chocolate chip cookie ever. Sure enough, it was so good. So if you ever get on board Beyond, I'm sure they have one on the other cruise ships, but the chocolate chip cookie was so good. So those are my blew me away moments. And I did love the fact that there wasn't a lot of children on board. It was very, very nice. It really had a nice touch. So I want to talk about the part that celebrity probably isn't going to be happy that I'm talking about, but I'm going to because I'm real like that. So what wasn't perfect? I will tell you, the butler. The butler was not perfect in any way, shape, or form. She started out with a bang, and she came in guns a-blazing, telling me all about the things. I told her we've never done this before. She gave me all of the tips and tricks. And I said, listen, I like snacks, because I will tell you, I've had a butler before. So I'm very particular about what it is that I want. And if I'm paying for it, I'm going to use it. So I said to her, I want snacks delivered to the room at 3:00 every day. And that was pretty much all I asked of her, going to be honest. And I said, she asked me what it is that I want, because I said, well, a charcuterie board would be great. But little did I know, because she didn't explain it to me, was that they actually provide daily delights, and you can choose and have it switch up every day if you wanted to. So that was one of the things she didn't mention. So on the daily delights, they will deliver you a charcuterie board, hummus in crackers, assorted cheese and bread and crackers, assorted coconut macarons, chocolates, little chocolates, and fresh baked cookies. So she didn't really switch that up. I will say one day she bought us fresh baked cookies, but majority of the time we just got a charcuterie board. And then here's the even better part. Apparently, after halfway through the cruise, we didn't want it anymore. And I'm totally kidding, because that's not true. We totally did want it, but she stopped bringing it at halfway through the cruise. So I don't know what the heck happened, but that was it for our snacks. At day 5, she was like, yes, so you're good. You don't need any more snacks. I don't know what ended up happening. So that was the one thing they got wrong. Also, they have this thing called private journeys, and you can have them curate basically your own private excursion. And I really wanted to do that because I'm a huge fan of private excursions. I absolutely love private excursions. I would rather do that than get on a bus with 70,000 other people. So with that being said, I contacted them before we got on board, and I said, I would like to do a private journey during St. Kitts. And can you curate one for me? Oh, yeah, Samantha, we've got it all figured out. We're going to let you know when you get on board. We're going to have someone contact you. The concierge will contact you when you're on board, blah, 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 blah. Nobody contacted me. I kept waiting and kept waiting and kept waiting. Well, I'm going to be honest. I didn't know how long I had to wait for. So I waited for like 2 days before, and I finally said something, and they're like, oh, you're asking us too late. I'm like, no, I asked you 2 weeks ago, and you said I created it on board for you. I go, and I figured someone was going to come contact me, and they didn't. So that was a flop of epic proportions. So they ended up contacting some suppliers off the ship, and they did come up with something. But then when they presented it to me at 8:00 at night the night before, I said, fine, we'll take it. And she said, oh, I don't know if we can do it. And I was like, wait, why did you present it to me then? You should have just never done it and said we couldn't do it. It was too late for it. So the next morning she said, well, don't worry. Maybe we can still get them to do it for you. We'll let you know tomorrow morning at 8:00, which is the day that we were going on this private journey. And sure enough, I showed up at the concierge because no one called me like they said they were going to. I showed up upstairs at the lounge and I said, and she said, oh, we can't do it for you. And I was like, are you kidding me? So I do think that they failed at that. So the Butler was not my favorite, and neither was the private journeys. I think they totally failed on that. So would I book the retreat again? I think so. I know that that's a terrible wishy-washy answer. I would definitely say yes, I would. I would definitely say also that I would go on Celebrity again, 1000%. I absolutely loved it. I think my experience with the Butler wasn't the greatest. However, now that I know what I did wrong, I could go back and fix it and make it better this time. So I would definitely 100% book Celebrity. And knowing me, because I do like to have things very much as easy as possible for me, I would book the retreat again, because honestly, that cabin was just well worth the money. It wasn't large. It wasn't overstated. It was just perfect. Absolutely perfect. So yes, do I think it was worth the money? I do think it was worth the money. I will tell you it was a lot. It was not cheap in any way, shape, or form, but I think it was worth the money. I will tell you who I think it's good for. I think it's good for couples, empty nesters, luxury travelers, and people celebrating milestones. It's probably not worth it for families because it's a lot of money. Travelers who barely use the cabin, that's for sure. And budget conscious travelers, obviously. So definitely, those are who I think it would be good for. So that is my final verdict. I do have the funniest story I could possibly tell about St. Kitts, but I'm going to have to hold that until another time, because while the private journey didn't work out, I like to, as I've mentioned before, create my own journeys. And this one might have flopped a bit. Was it fun? Yes, looking back on it, it was super fun. I can find the light and funny in everything, even when it's very scary and stressful. But I will tell you that it was quite a story, and I cannot wait to tell you guys. So hopefully at some point I will get a chance to tell you my St. Kitts story before it gets too far away. But we are running out of time tonight. So I want to tell you that next show, we're actually talking about me, and how I got here. So that should be interesting. I feel like it's been a couple episodes and I have yet to kind of fully introduce myself. I just keep saying, I'm Samantha, your host with Talk Travel with Samantha. So I feel like maybe you should kind of get to know me just a little bit more. So thank you again for joining this week. Thank you for listening about my celebrity retreat. And hopefully, if you would like to book the celebrity retreat, we would love to help get you there, because now I feel like I'm a professional, because that's what we do here at Fabulous Adventures Travel. We try all the things so we can report them back to you. So I am your host, Samantha, with Talk Travel with Samantha, and you can find me on talktravelwithsamantha.com and on Facebook at Samantha-Fabulous Adventures Travel. So until next time, travel smarter, vacation harder, and enjoy that retreat.